There gets to a point where I'm like, is this a robot or is this an actual person?
If you're misrepresenting the property in such a way, it's really going to come back to sort of haunt you.
Why don't you just explain to the consumers, what can AI do for these photos? Welcome to the TNT Real Estate Podcast, where we spark conversations that set you up for real estate success. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tanya, and each week we bring you expert tips on navigating Northern Ontario's real estate market. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you thrive.
All right, so how was the last week?
Last week was fantastic. It was great. It was busy. You were busy, right? You had closings early in the week, which isn't typical. Usually we have closings later. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How were your closings?
Both closed. Mm-hmm. One I wasn't sure that we were going to get to the closing table, but it got there. And yeah, the other one was nice and smooth, which is the way it should be. But one of them was a little bit hectic.
Was it a little painful?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like different personalities, and sometimes agents just get in the way of things that lawyers should get to take care of. Mm-hmm. So it's just, yeah, you know what?
But it all came to a resolution.
It all came to a resolution, which is why we're talking about the thing that we're talking about. It's kind of like a funny story, but we'll get into it after.
So fun. Yeah. Well, I had a fun night last night. I had my book club, monthly book club.
Thrilling.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Super thrilling. Actually, funny story. We were at this local restaurant, locally owned, not a chain.
You're not going to name drop
No,
it?
We're not going to name drop. But the owner came up to our table and was like, hey, Tanya, how's it going? I just have to say that your signs are the best signs in the city.
Are the for sale signs?
Yeah, for sale signs.
Damn right they are.
Yeah. And soon we're going to have a big one up in our neighborhood to be determined. We're not going to mention it here. But yeah, it was a really nice plug for Sutton and for our company. But it's too bad because like pretty much everybody at my book club, they're already my clients.
Yeah. So you got to switch book clubs.
Yeah. Or get some new recruits. So if anybody wants to join a book club. Sometimes it's educational things. Sometimes it's just entertaining.
Book club.
Lots of wine.
All right.
Food. It's great. Fantastic. Cool. All right. So should we get to our podcast? Today, we're going to be talking about the future of real estate and AI and using automation in real estate. So that's something that we're quite familiar with, but it seems to be evolving quite a bit.
Absolutely. And I mean, well, when you started, I feel like when I started 10 years ago, it was just like starting to like break into real estate. Like we started using like e-signature platforms, DocuSign and AuthentiSign. And like my first couple of weeks where I was supposed to be getting trained, I was training, the older generation in my office on how to use these like kind of technology based, platforms. Mm-hmm. So I think, obviously like comparing 10 years ago to now, it looks totally different.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Even I think last year to like this year with, ChatGPT kind of taking over, there's just so much more of it prevalent. So let's get into AI. And our first thing really, we see this very often, is listing descriptions written by AI. So AI can do a pretty good job helping us with our listing descriptions. I feel like a lot of realtors struggle with the words behind, putting them onto paper because we're not writers. We're kind of like, we do so much as realtors, but that's one of the things that we don't do very often. Yeah. What do you think about using listing descriptions, using AI?
Well, so it's actually two-sided. So I remember there's been multiple times where my clients have brought up, especially like the more, like intellectual, like they have like multiple degrees and stuff. They're like, like listing descriptions and just in general on realtor.ca are awful. Mm-hmm. So, it does up the game from somebody that doesn't know how to like write a descriptive description. So it does help some people. It kind of ups those games. But there's also like, it's so easy to tell when a robot is writing a listing description that I think we all need to be very careful and maybe reread what you're writing and take out all those long dashes that nobody actually in the
English writes with those long dashes,
and like they're all over the place. It's horrible. It's
a clear sign that you're using AI to write a listing description. Yeah. I find like sometimes like you mentioned it, being kind of robotic, and it's nice to sort of have a tool that'll do things for you in some ways, but And we kind of debate on what's better for a listing description, long, short, almost like point form would be nice, because I know as a consumer, I read things pretty quickly and I kind of skim to go through. But I think when you're shopping for a home and when you're putting your home on the market, you want it to feel like maybe it's very personal. You want it to sound like your home and how it's described, and put in those little personal elements. So I think you can use AI, but you should add those elements that are very, important to that listing. Like what's unique about this home, what's unique about the location, who's the intended buyer of this home, what's going to appeal to them. It's not just, throw in ChatGPT. It's got 3 beds, 2 baths. It's in the hospital area with a, 50 by 100 foot lot. And then it adds in embellishments. It's important for you as a realtor to put in your own.
Absolutely.
Your own touch on it.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why people hire us, right? Is to tell the story of their home, which is, part of the description. But I think like moving a little bit further into like what AI does, like even when we're doing, the square footages and going, more into the like the listing description, the room measurements that we can do now, the pictures, the Photoshop that we can do, it's getting more and more clammy. And like, I'm not sure that consumers really understand when you see a picture that it might not be the room at all. And like, from the beginning of time, people are like, oh, the pictures looked way better than the house does in person. I'm like, yeah, that's what photographers do, like it's our job is to get people in the house and to write offers. So yeah, it
can be a little bit misleading when you have something that is, so Photoshop is one of those things you have to be careful of as well, right? We can sort of enhance colors of skies and make things look kind of prettier, brighter, that type of thing. Yeah. But when it comes to using AI and Photoshop, virtual staging and all that, it can really change what it looks like to what it actually is in person. And I think we were seeing people purchasing homes without even coming to see them, during COVID and whatnot. There was a lot of people coming from elsewhere and buying properties here. And in that sense, if you're misrepresenting the property in such a way, it's really going to come back to sort of haunt you. So you have to be careful. I think there's definitely some enhancements you can do, but it's important that you don't overstep as an agent.
Why don't you just explain to the consumers that like what can AI do for these photos? Yeah.
So AI, can do a really good job. You can use it in lots of different ways. So I like to use it to when you have a tenanted property, let's say, and maybe it's a little bit messy just because of how it's kept, or there's personal things that you don't want to show. You can erase things, which is really nice. Yeah. There's a dog, there's a baby or something, right? You can get rid of those items that you don't want to have public facing in an advertisement. And sometimes it's just the personal elements, maybe the decor or the clutter, that can be a bit, just a bad sort of first impression on a photo. So you can actually remove stuff. So it was interesting. We saw a photo not too long ago. There was a property. It had a really massive garage. It was beautiful. It was a great size, but it had a very, very personal kind of decor type theme, let's say. I've had clients before, this was before AI, they had like a Vegas themed room, right? And so that's not always going to be appealing to everybody, right? Yep. So you can remove sort of the Vegas theme and that kind of stuff and just show it blank. But it's nice to have both photos side by side, like maybe the actual photo and then the items removed photo. So when people come in, they're not like, oh, this is totally not what I was thinking.
I do like when people do that, especially in the rooms that you're like, they're a little bit too big to be a bedroom. They might not have a closet or a window or something. It's kind of just like that den style. But then you put like, you can put virtual staging. You could put a desk in there. You could put like a home gym. You could kind of, because it's obviously really hard walking through the house. Lots of people think that they have the vision of what it should look like, but they don't. So it's nice to see, this is how a gym could be laid out in here. This is how an office could be laid out.
Absolutely. When you have an awkward layout or some funny beams that are in strange locations, it can sometimes be hard for buyers to picture themselves in that home and in that room and how they would use it. So virtual staging can be a perfect tool for that.
Yeah. Do you think there's a line that can get crossed when we're doing too much, maybe?
I think there's a line when you put miniature furniture in miniature rooms. I think that can be problematic. Yeah. And I think, just enhancements that go beyond what's actually there or what's actually possible.
And I find now even that Chat GPT can do this. You just like put up a picture of whatever you want. Like I did one with the one of the buildings that we bought. Like it was like this ugly, the old, shingle siding. And I was like, I want to see it with black vinyl siding. And within a minute, it sends it back to me, all done. It does have a couple like skewed kind of corners and stuff, and the old car, I think it was a crappy Mustang. It was now a brand new Mustang. So they redid the whole picture. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So I think we need to be very cautious, especially and you can tell like a bedroom that's 10 by 10, you could obviously tell when it's 30 by 30, and like this massive bedroom furniture that AI is putting into this bedroom like obviously doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be careful when it kind of distorts sizes and shapes.
When it makes you perceive something that is just isn't possible, I think that's when you kind of you get across the line. But nice to be able to use it for design elements for sure. Another thing that we use often in real estate is automation. So one of the tools we use a CRM, right? A client management system to sort of keep on top of our clients. And there's some automations that we do there. How do you find using automations for your business?
I mean, it just streamlines everything. You just kind of set it and semi forget it in the way that like, okay, our, email newsletter goes out every Friday. So we just have to find the information to actually plug it in. And I mean, we haven't kind of stepped into this realm yet, but I feel like lots of people are just using AI to get that information. And it's just like an automatic email newsletter. I think we both like having a little bit more of like a personal touch side, and like we want to share the things that we want to share in those newsletters. But I think, especially like the big teams are using automation for like a huge portion of their business. And I think even like the singular agents should be using it to some extent. Yeah. But there's obviously with all of this AI stuff, there's a line that shouldn't necessarily be crossed.
Yeah. I like the fact that we can send out like birthday emails to our clients. It helps me remember as well that it's their birthday coming up. So sometimes I'll send them a quick message as well. Or if you can do like sort of a pop by or happen to see them, before or after their birthday, just keeping on track of those little, milestones that are important in your clients' lives, important for them to know that you're thinking of them. It's hard to remember everybody's birthdays, even in my family, I'm not always the best. So it's nice when you can use automations like that to keep in touch with your clients. One of the things that we use as well is to help with our advertising our clients' properties. We have a new listing that's coming up. You guys will see probably a lot of like coming soon ads and that type of thing, asking for like a DM the word home, or DM, we say Sutton. We always use the word Sutton in ours. And so there's an automation behind that as well. It was funny. One of our agents said, how did you respond to that so quickly? Yeah. Oh, it's a secret. It's actually, it's actually automation, right? There's an sort of a thing going on in the background called ManyChat, and we use that to send out the information about the properties. And what's cool is it can kind of go back and forth several times depending on what the answer is. We don't maybe use it to too much of an extent because we like it to be as personal as possible. But just to be able to respond quickly to people, I think is important. Yeah. So people get the information they're looking for. And, agents are always on the go. So sometimes it's hard to.
It saves, I feel like it saves our mental capacity too. Cause like we're on social media probably more than the average because we have to do all this marketing and stuff. So like this is one portion where like, okay, we don't have to answer every single DM, just obviously the more personal ones. But there's always those people that like you're having like a DM conversation with, and like there gets to a point where I'm like, is this a robot or is this an actual person? So I think I've been caught a couple times talking to robots. But I'm just chatting, and I'm like, the responses are like really good, and like they like are prompting my next.
Do you make a friend? You made a friend with the robot?
I think I have more AI friends
maybe
than
that's
I do real
where,
friends.
Maybe that's where the line is kind of crossed, right? Maybe, you shouldn't be making friends with those AI robots.
Yeah.
Okay, so ethics and compliance. Okay, so in Ontario, it's important to avoid misrepresentations, on properties and all types of, in our dealings with clients and with dealing with other agents as well. So AI photos is one of those things that should have some kind of disclosure or disclaimer to say that this has been virtually staged and that type of thing. Another thing we use for compliance is with respect to identification. So we have to ask our clients for ID. And Tyler, I understand you use FinTracker, one of those apps as well, for doing client identification.
Yep. So, I mean, we as an office have purchased this program for all of our agents, so everybody has access to it. But I mean, especially when you're dealing with people, and it's more prevalent in the last like 5 years, obviously in Sudbury, when people are buying from out of town and maybe they're not here all the time, and maybe they, are never here and they're just buying investment properties. But it allows you to do a remote verification. So basically, we send out a link that we put in a little bit of their information. It sends out a link, and then the app kind of walks them through, hold your ID up, take a picture. And then obviously what they do for work and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's not hugely AI, but it's something it's more of like a tech program that we can use to kind of verify, but still be 100% legal with it as well.
It maintains that compliance. It helps verify the ID. You don't have to ask your client to get their wallet out again. So that can be super helpful.
Even with the receipt of funds, like you can send it out to your client. They can put their bank account information in, and then when it gets back to us, it just kind of blurs it out, or it's X's or something. So the background of the program has it, but it's not being shared. It doesn't. We don't get access to it at all.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. And then when we reconcile those identifications as well, it blurs out the numbers. It puts little stars on them, so that the information is kept in accordance with Ontario law. So the privacy is complied with, but also we're complying with identification for our clients, which is important.
So something that I've seen in the last 5 years, well, you know what, probably even since I started. So let's say the past decade. So data-driven pricing. Where has the skill gone? Where we actually do a legit CMA by ourselves, and we count how many bedrooms our house has compared to the house next door, how many bathrooms, the square footage, all the good things. Are you seeing that go to like the wayside, or are we seeing?
I think the consumers are finding more and more of these tools to give like automatic valuations of their properties. They put in real basic criteria: square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, neighborhood. It's nice that there's tools that can search the databases and look at all the sold data and compare it factually, I suppose. But I mean, I think our job as agents is to look at all the nuances and the differences and the quality of finishes and the upgrades, and that kind of information just isn't available, I don't think, on AI or in these databases that are being used to generate automatic valuations. So, and our consumers see quite a variation. They can put in their postal code and the features of their home, and they'll get one number from one system and they'll get a massive range from another system. So I think it can be helpful for agents to use some of these tools to kind of get a bit of a benchmark to start with. But certainly it's always going to take going into the home, talking to the clients, getting a feel for things and the neighborhood and knowing the neighborhood in order to do a proper valuation.
I think every big brand real estate brokerage has a site that will spit out a number for you, which is obviously part of like lead capture and lead generation.
Yeah, we're getting your information.
And I'm pretty sure most realtors probably have a site that does the exact same thing. But I mean, there's so many, and even with my own, like I've tested my own house in it, some websites it's kind of spot on, and others are, $200,000 off. So it's like really one of those things that it's kind of just like a reassurance, like, okay, maybe AI is thinking the same way I am with this valuation. Yeah. But I mean, you always have to do it yourself.
Yeah. And we have other tools too. Like we have other databases like impact databases and things, but then those tools are not as time sensitive as the information the realtor knows of what's currently going on in your neighborhood. So that's important, because even though property has closed and can demonstrate a sale price, that closing demonstrates the price 2-3 months before, right? So yeah, it's always good to have the real estate professional go in and actually do the valuation.
So AI is not replacing the CMA just yet.
Never. It might replace the listing descriptions, but I don't think it'll ever.
I don't think it could replace. I don't think AI will ever be able to smell the house that you're walking into. So whether that's good or bad, I mean, that affects sales prices hugely, right? So
So once AI gets a sense of smell, we're
we're
doomed.
done. We're done. Yeah.
Okay, that was good.
Okay, so we started from AI written listings and now obviously ended on smart pricing and everywhere in between. So the future's here, obviously. AI, we're just going to keep building it into our systems and processes, but obviously with the lens of, it's here to help, but not here to do our jobs.
Yeah, the tools definitely serve us better, but it's like our relationships, our ethics, and our personal touch that really is important in our jobs.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to the TNT podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave us a comment, subscribe, and share with a friend who might be interested in real estate.
We'll catch you next time, and until then, stay ahead in real estate.